When we go on retreat with sometimes adults, but with teenagers, we'll take them to the Eagle's Wings Retreat Center or Eagle's Nest. And there's a lot of mountains. The kids like to climb up there and go up the hill. But I've always found it fascinating. There is another hill there, a small hill. I think it's just a pile of dirt, maybe 5 or 6 feet high. It's not tall at all. But somewhere along the weekend, the boys will start playing a game on that hill. And some of you may remember we played this game called King of the Hill. So here are the finer points of King of the Hill. One boy runs up to the top of the hill and only room for one at a time. And it's the other boy's job to knock him off, or to be up there for at least a little while. And the boy who's up there, his job is to defend the hill, push him down, do whatever it takes to remain up there as the king of the hill. And while he's up there, even if it's for 10 seconds, he'll start flexing or something, you know. Now, when this happens, they get to be like king for a few seconds. But James and John, they knew what a king was in Jesus' time. To become a king usually involved violence. And the throne usually was on an elevated place. If you went to see a king, you had to bow down and he was up there. When James and John were with Jesus, at some point they understood that this man, either then or later or somehow, was going to be a king. Or he was already a king. They even said, when you come into your kingdom, we want to sit at your right and at your left. To which Jesus responds in a way that they wouldn't understand until a few years later, when he says to them, you don't know what you're asking. You don't know what you're asking. Because what do they think they're asking? Well, a king, when he would reign, not just on his throne, but often the image that we have of kings in the ancient world was that they sat around and they had meals, tables, the guests at a feast. And at those feasts, he would sit in the middle and drink from royal cups and fatted calves. And who was on his right and on his left usually were his trusted companions, who also had the privilege of being served. They served at his right and at his left. They ruled. In some sense, they shared the kingship. They were also kings of whatever hell he was sitting on. But what they didn't understand, what Jesus kind of intimates when he says, you don't know what you're asking, is that Jesus will climb a hill and he will take his throne in a real way. It has a name, Calvary Hill. Sometimes in Golgotha Hill. It was a hill. And his throne was a cross. A different kind of king. A different kind that they were used to. Because I would argue up until the moment Jesus died for our sins, there was a king of the hill. His name was Satan. And he ruled by sin. And even in those times, when someone was blessed, if they were blessed, that means they were successful in war. They had lots of land and lots of money and lots of children. They were successful in this world. And then Jesus comes along, flips that around, and said, if you're blessed if you mourn, you're poor in spirit, you hunger and thirst for righteousness, if they persecute you because of me, totally turns it around. Different kind of king, different kind of kingdom. And as his ministry goes on, he will show to them what kind of king he is. And it comes to total fruition at this altar. Because Jesus will take his throne here at this altar. And like the pagans of old, you will drop down to your knees, and appropriately so, and worship. But here's the difference. A king in the ancient world would take from his people. Our king drops down And he becomes the feast. He becomes the sacred vessels. He becomes those royal vessels and the feast itself. And now you participate. He invites you forward and shows us in his life and in his church and in his apostles, if we want to reign with him, we must die with him. We must suffer with him. We must pick up our cross and follow him. Being a Christian doesn't mean we get to kick back and enjoy all the foibles or all the rewards. Actually, there's not much there. It is an invitation to charity. It is an invitation to sacrifice. That's why they don't know what they're saying. They're about to find out. But I would even say the challenge is to us, even here at this Mass. There'll be a couple times when we will make requests. May the sacrifice in yours be acceptable to God, our Almighty Father. Do we realize what we're asking? Do we realize what we're saying? That we're participating in the very sacrifice that saved us. We have the nerve to offer Jesus to the Father in sacrifice, to put your struggles on that patent and offer it to God the Father. We ask for that. Do we know what we're asking? And also, you'll make another request. Lord, I'm not worthy to receive you, but only say the word and my soul shall be healed. Do we know what we're asking? Because we're asking to mount that throne, to come up here with him. Because that is the most powerful prayer that's ever happened in my life. Many, many years ago, I was struggling whether to stay in the seminary or not. And I remember in the cathedral, standing before the crucifix, asking Jesus, can you take this from me? Can you take this pain, this anxiety, this restlessness from me? And the answer was no. And he said, but you can crawl up here with me, and we can go through this together. You can come up here with me. Come up on my throne every day at the Mass, and we will do this together. Because to be a Christian is not just something we are, it's something we do. We do it. We call down heaven at the Mass, and then we are sent forth to go back into the world and to realize that Jesus won the battle. He is the king of the hill, but not everybody's hill. Not everybody's hill. There's a few hills we have to conquer. And when I say we have to conquer these things, we don't conquer people, we conquer ideas, sin, falsehood. And recognizing that out there's all kinds of people struggling to be kings of the hill. You know, in a few weeks, we will have an election. And whoever wins, whoever climbs that mountain and is king of the hill of our country, I'm afraid there will be violence. Pray about that. Don't be part of that. We think we're immune to that in this country. We are not. We have seen it. We know that that can happen. And it comes with a struggle for power. But we have been asked to join him and to be in the struggle for charity. But there are some hills we still have to conquer. One of those hills is sin, falsehood, disorder, disordered relationships, disordered marriages. We have to get on top of those hills and not push people off, but bring them to truth, to share it with them. We don't destroy people, we destroy bad ideas. We destroy bad ideas. I know I have a friend who was or is an alcoholic, and he would just love it if he came to see me and I handed him a bottle of Jack Daniels. He'd say, dude. I said, no, that's not love. That's not love. He may even say, this is who I am. And I would say, no, it ain't. And this is going to be hard. That's why you call down a higher power, and it's going to feel like you're on a cross. Ask them as they're going through recovery. But he is called to climb that mountain, and it's going to be a tough one. And also, when we climb that mountain and celebrate marriage, we used to have that mountain, 50 years ago, when people knew what marriage was. Now they're not sure. But we don't destroy people, we destroy bad ideas. and to know that all of you who are called to married life are meant to, and I'm going to use some fancy theological language, you're meant to be an icon of Christ's relationship with his church. Christ is the groom and we are the bride. He died for us. Now, marriage is not supposed to be a crucifixion. He already did that. But it's meant to be sacrifice, meant to be laying down of your life, but also to find meaning there. You find yourself when you give yourselves away. You know, I don't want you to feel bad for me. Becoming a priest did cost a little sacrifice. I gave up children and a wife. But every once in a while, I'll go visit people's home and, babysit and for a little while, and then I leave. Yay! And you embrace it. Wow, there's a sacrifice there too. And even here this weekend, I have witnessed people sacrificing their time, talent, and treasure for our Luke Fest. People coming up here all hours of the night and putting things up. We have many programs here. A lot of the nights and men cook for us. They spend hours making meals so we can have presentations to give people the truth of the Catholic faith. And that is not easy. It calls for sacrifice. And next week we'll talk about treasure. But time and talent is sometimes the hardest thing. And I am here on Wednesday nights when I see those kids pile into those classrooms and those teachers who have given of their time. And I've seen those teachers who teach junior high. Pray for them. Pray for them. It's not easy. There's no earthly reward. You can't give them detention. But it's a total sacrifice because they love the Lord that much and they love the kids that much and they want to instill it in them. Even though it's not always fun. It's not always easy. But that's a mountain we still have to conquer. I come face to face with it sometimes, even at weddings, at quinceañera. We had a quinceañera in here yesterday. Whole family of Catholics. Some of them I knew, some of them I didn't. And we can always tell who's been practicing. We make the sign of the cross and they go, what? They don't know what's going on. Well, we have failed to conquer that hill of evangelizing and catechizing some of our young people. And when it even comes to the issues of sex, what is sex for? Where is the proper context? We've lost that hill and we have to take it back. Reminded that it's a gift that God has given us for generosity, to be open to life. So when we see all the hills we have been called to conquer, sharing the faith, being open to life in marriage, defending the faith, every day, are we brave enough to ask Jesus, can we sit at your right and at your left? And knowing that he has shown us what it means to be a disciple of his, that we will rule as kings and queens on his hill. When we ask that of him, hopefully we will know what we are asking.